All right, we are live. Welcome to Geeks Worldwide presents Press Any Key. I'm, of course, your host, Michael Schluger, and this is episode 299. My God, we are on the cusp. I don't know what we're on the cusp of, but it's going to be amazing, I'm sure. Let me introduce the crew. We have Chris Lassard.
Hello.
Good to have you back on the show, my friend.
Good to be back, man.
Absolutely. And of course, Connor Howard.
Hey, it's good to be here. And I got to say, it feels great being on the cusp of a Zack Snyder movie starring Gerard Butler. It feels great. I don't know about you guys, but I'm loving it.
Really?
Yeah, I can't wait. We'll get our abs oiled up and we'll kill some Persians. It'll be awesome.
Yeah. We'll put some bitches in holes.
Fine. That is the one movie I'll get excited for. If it involves,
that's what we do for our 300 episode. That's
wow. Okay, that completely went over my head. But I see what you were going for now, because
300 is an amazing, it's an American treasure.
It is. No, because I have such a negative connotation with Zack Snyder now. Like, I really, really dislike the man. I think he's like shat all over the DCU. But
tell us how you really feel.
300 was a good movie.
But 300 was good. 300 was good.
Really was.
Solid.
I did enjoy 300. I'm not gonna
It made
lie.
me realize I was gay. No, seriously, I think it came out when I was in high school, and I was like kind of like battling with myself. And I saw that movie, and I was like not looking at any of their faces. And then like it's like one of those like 5 years later, like looking back moments. It's like, yeah, super gay, Chris. Almost as gay as that time I made my dad take me to the Spice World movie. When I was
That explains so much.
when I was like 11, and like, how did you not know, man? How did you not know?
As far as awakening moments go, that you could have worse ones. Like that one's
true.
Not bad.
That's true.
That's very true.
So obviously our episodes now are once a month, so we have a month's worth of news to go through, or at least we're going to touch on all the important stuff. So let's jump into it. And of course, we have to start with Nintendo, because pretty much tradition almost dictates at this point that we start with Nintendo. So our first Nintendo story involves an interesting feature, at least for Nintendo, that they put up and just recently took away. So Nintendo launched a fan review feature on their site, which is really interesting. If because you can register your games to Nintendo. So if you did that and you had played the game for at least 2 hours, you could post a review. Which, by the way, Nintendo then would like check to make sure it wasn't full of curses or foul language or whatever. But they said that they wouldn't prevent a negative review from showing. Unfortunately, they pulled the service. They basically just took it completely off, and they said, and I quote, "Customer reviews have been taken offline as we evaluate this feature and its functionality. We currently have no estimated date on when an update will be provided. We appreciate the positive response and thank the reviewers who provided such thoughtful commentary on the games." I think this was kind of bizarre, actually, to like put it out there and then take it away. What was your takeaway from this? Do you think that like a lot of people just started talking shit about their games, or what happened here?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Obviously, I didn't see any of the reviews that led to this shutdown of the service. But like you mentioned, as you put it, they filter for profanity, for vulgarity. So like, I doubt it was just a flood of bad words. It might have just been like a lot of people saying stuff like Bush did 9/11 or Harambe lives. Probably just inane stuff that flooded the system. Like,
you think so? You think that's what it was?
What I'm wondering is did they have too much to go through and approve, or did too much get through and get posted that they didn't want posted? I'm not too sure like what the process was.
Well, yeah. So I mean, like, I think Nintendo gives itself 3 or 4 days to like approve your review or whatever.
Okay.
But yeah, maybe they just assigned like one intern and then they were like, fuck.
That might have been it. Yeah. This just overall just sounds like something they weren't ready to implement. They implemented it anyway when they weren't really ready. That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, it could be an image thing, right? A lot of Nintendo games are geared towards younger people, and if the reviews weren't like, if they're a little salacious or had some interesting hashtags or vulgar language, one, they wouldn't make it onto the site. But maybe it was like too hard to, I don't know, because it kind of sounds like censorship as well. You know what I mean?
It does. I feel like rather than salaciousness, although I love that word, I feel like I feel like what it was is just too many people were just giving things like 3 stars, and maybe Nintendo,
which is like awesome because whenever I buy something, I look at the 3-star reviews because those are the most honest ones. You know, so like
those are usually the most detailed ones too, because people will be specific about why it wasn't 5 or 1 stars, because most reviews are either 5 or 1 stars usually.
Yep. Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah, and so you go to the 3-star review and I'm like, oh, actually more 3-star reviews have made me buy something than not. It's like, all right, these guys have weighed the options. I don't really care about these 3 cons, so let's do it. Let's go ahead and get No Man's Sky. I'm just kidding.
So yeah, I mean, at the same time, I think it's odd when you realize like, oh wait, Nintendo doesn't have some sort of a customer review section. This is like a basic functionality that exists on every other single platform to one extent or another. Like PlayStation, for example, lets you rate things, but doesn't really let you write up a review. But you can still rate stuff at the very least, and that doesn't even exist.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Netflix lets you do it, and it helps you like curate movies and shows
Right.
that you want to watch, which is like an algorithm they could put in something like this that can be really helpful for sales.
Yeah. Nintendo generally, historically, they haven't really been much of a follower when it comes to things like that. So like, they might have thought, hey, we gotta have a review system of some kind. They might have encountered difficulties they didn't expect, and right now I'm thinking they're probably just gonna tweak it and try and come back with something that's a little bit more in line with their philosophy and their identity as a company. So maybe it'll be more of like a simple, streamlined, like thumbs up, thumbs down system, or like emoji based reviews, or like you can have your me, your me character like act out your review or something like that. That's just like a more Nintendo style review system that I expect.
That's I would agree with that.
Maybe they're working on something like that or something. This is like just a beta or like a an experiment.
Right. No, absolutely possible, and then we'll keep an eye out and let you our viewers know if the systems comes back. But speaking of what they're working on, I can tell you something they're not working on, and that is a supposed Switch 2.0. So obviously, when the Switch came out, I think almost uniformly amongst ourselves, our little pack group, we talked about how underpowered this thing was versus other consoles. And one of the things we did talk about was that potentially it wouldn't be too hard to upgrade since it was based on the NVIDIA Shield hardware. And they had released a newer version recently, or had one in the works. So, it was a possibility. Well, Nintendo has come out and said, no, we're not doing this for now, at least. And what they basically said is that they're going to extend the lifespan of the console via peripherals. That's their game plan. So, the quote here is, the People Familiar said expanded Switch features in the coming year could also include additional network-related features and peripherals to be attached to its USB Type-C port. At an investor briefing in February, Mr. Kimishima, who's currently the head of Nintendo, the CEO, he had said that he wanted to make the Switch's product cycle longer than the 5 to 6 year span that's become customary in the video game console industry. So that's pretty much the important section of that quote here. I think this is a weird decision. There's not too many consoles I can think of where the peripherals are kind of looked upon fondly or as a core component of that particular system. Peripherals are just tend to be kind of gimmicky, and they tend to be only good for a handful of games, and they take up unnecessary space in your house, essentially, as far as I'm concerned.
I think PlayStation Move is definitely considered just kind of an afterthought. I don't know if Sony expected that to extend the lifespan of the PS3, but I'm not sure it did. So yeah, I think you have a point there. But if any company could extend the lifespan of a system with peripherals, Nintendo has the best shot of pulling it off. But
I agree.
I don't know what shape that would take though. Like that's hard to think about. But
yeah. So I mean, like, peripherals to me, you say peripherals, I think like niche stuff. Like, so for example, if you're a huge racing enthusiast, you're going to have a wheel, right? Peripheral. Right. Or if you are a huge, what's the one, the space sim? I think you were playing it, Connor, I think.
Oh, like Elite Dangerous, like
Elite
a joystick.
Dangerous. Yeah, so you might have like a joystick, and there's actually a guy that makes like special pedals.
Oh yeah.
For the game, so you can like maneuver your ship better.
Yeah, like command boards, like Steel Battalion style, just setups that take up your entire table.
Right.
Yeah.
So
right.
So I think of that, but like I said, that's niche.
Yeah,
it really is.
I think like what you guys are talking about, they're kind of catering to like the hardcore whales of those games, right? Like in my opinion, you can't really play Elite Dangerous without that joystick. It's just not the same kind of experience. But like when I think of peripherals, my first thought is the Elite controller that Xbox did, where it had like the customizable pads that you can like customize how they release and have like 50 different profiles. And the reason why I'm talking about it is because my company that I work for at the daytime did some of the software for that. And they were expecting it to sell so much and change how people played the games because their controllers are now more customizable. And that's just, it sold pretty well over Christmas, and then it just stopped, right? It didn't do any of that like extension of life that people were expecting when that came out, because it was a $200-something controller.
It was so expensive. I was baffled when that one came out.
It's pretty.
It's cool. It's cool. Don't get me wrong.
But again, like who's gonna buy that, right? The person who plays a shit ton of fighting games and needs those, mechanics. And then there's an argument to say that they're cheating when they are using those things,
yeah,
right? And so that's the thing about peripherals that's weird. But I think you're right, Connor. Like with the Labo stuff coming out and how like quirky Nintendo is, they can go out of this world creative for what that is. And I think another obvious one would be VR or augmented reality that could be capable with.
Yeah, which they've said they're not exploring at this time. But I'm glad you brought up Nintendo Labo, because I was going to mention it, because would you say Labo is a peripheral? Because it sort of is and sort of isn't, right?
Right. I was debating whether to mention it myself, but I would say because it's like extra and you have to buy it, then it starts as a peripheral.
Even though it's really just software and cardboard, and you're really using the Switch stuff that's already there, the screen, the Joy-Cons, etc. There's nothing exclusive about it outside of the cardboard. And
I would consider it a peripheral just in the sense that you're building on top of what's already. It's definitely a different kind of peripheral, like a very unique kind of peripheral, but I think it still fits in my book, at least.
Yeah, I think it's one of those like not all squares are rectangles, but all rectangles are squares situation, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think if we're like talking about it in an umbrella, then yeah, it's totally a peripheral. But would you?
It's just a really weird take on peripherals, where it's yeah.
Right.
And but I think it's a brilliant idea as well.
It is.
So if it's like along the lines of that, I think they've got something. But 7 years is a long time, especially in technology. But Nintendo's never been the one to say we're going to have the best system with the best graphics. They've never been that company. So that's.
Well, I would say actually traditionally Nintendo tends to have a shorter console life cycle than the other guys, because they're always playing catch up. And if you look at like the PlayStation 2, that was a pretty long life cycle. PlayStation 2 was about 7-8 years. PlayStation 3 was also about 7-8 years, honestly. And we're 5 years into the PlayStation 4 and, of course, the Xbox One. But, of course, that's kind of been disrupted with the Xbox One X and the PlayStation Pro. I don't know what's happening with the life cycles now with that sort of weird mix-up. If you think on the flip side of things, think about Nintendo's consoles. Probably the N64, I want to say, had the longest life cycle. But from the GameCube to the Wii wasn't that long, and from the Wii to the Wii U is also only about 5 years. Although
that felt a lot longer, the Wii to the Wii U, than 5 years.
Yeah, it didn't feel like 5 years at all. It felt more like 10. It was crazy.
10, really? I'm gonna look it up. I might be wrong.
No, I know it's not 10. It just felt like 10 because like the Wii came out when I was in high school, and the Wii U came out after I was out of college. So it just felt like a lot longer than.
Yeah, you went through a lot of life changes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Wii originally came out in 2006. Was when it was when it. Yeah. The Wii U released in 2012, so about 6 years. And then I know from the Wii U to the Switch was about 5 years because it was abysmal in terms of sales.
They needed to do it.
Yeah,
they needed a new system. Yeah.
So yeah, this is, I can't say it's a risky move because Nintendo's doing well right now, but I'm a little disappointed. I would hope that they would do a refresh. At least plan one.
I don't expect one this soon, but it's weird that they're not at least thinking about it. So that's definitely interesting. But like one angle of this that I actually appreciate is that I almost felt like a little slighted by Sony when they were like, "Hey, get the PS4 Pro," and I'm like, I don't want to, but okay, now you're a caveman because you don't have 4K gaming. Like, whereas Nintendo's over here just saying, "Don't worry about a Switch 2. Like, you're good. Just keep playing just keep having fun. We're Nintendo. We just want you to have fun." So I almost I think it's an angle of like appreciating their players more. They're not like expecting them to drop money on another system to stay current.
Right.
So I kind of like that actually.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Any final thoughts before we move on, Chris?
I'm just piggybacking off of what Connor said. I think they're quirky enough and charming enough and have released a string of really good games on the Switch so far. And so, I mean, if they kind of just keep that same roadmap and, maintain that like out of this world creativity, because I was harping on the Switch when it first came out, but now that I have one, and like when I was sick, like I played a ton of it, and it is a lot more portable than I expected. And playing Skyrim on a plane is something I never knew I needed. And even though we make fun of Skyrim being ported all the time, like having that be mobile is so cool. I think again, like if anyone can do it really well, it's them, because those peripherals can actually be what's pushing that technology instead of the actual console. Yeah,
I would say the biggest sort of concern I have for Nintendo is, from what I've seen so far of 2018, there's nothing that's really caught my eye in terms of a release schedule, or there's no big blockbuster that I'm aware of that like I'm super excited about or is getting any kind of real buzz for now.
But they did just announce that I think some of their other games, like Super Mario Odyssey, will get like updates. Like there's I think they're going to put new areas in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's good. Different. That's also very different for them.
That is different. So, you start to see them, experiment more with DLC and that kind of thing. So we'll see. But in the interest of keeping things moving, our next topic, something very big happened in February, and that is the annual DICE Awards, right? And so the DICE Awards are one of those sort of like big deals that I don't think sort of comes across to the average gamer as much. Because like the closest comparison you can make is like the Oscars, right? The DICE Awards are the Oscars of the video game industry. They're, it's developers voting for, well, that's also GDC, I guess. But what would you say is the biggest distinction in your mind, Chris, between a DICE Award and a GDC Award?
The DICE Award, so I don't know if this is what you guys feel about it, but it kind of makes me feel a little bit warmer on the inside. It's like less corporate, I guess.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's like I feel like they also take a little bit more time to decide what those awards are going to. But these are all just like observations I've made in my own head, so I don't really know.
That's fair. That's fair. Both are very important industry awards. The way that the DICE Awards work is I think there's a small committee that nominates games in each category, but then everyone that's part of the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences, it gets to vote then on the games. So this year's awards, I mean, Nintendo swept them. There's really no other way of stating it. I mean, like, they crushed it.
Well, when you drop a new Zelda game and a new Mario game in one year, you're probably going to do pretty well.
Well,
yeah,
not even that. Like Fire Emblem Heroes won for best mobile game. I think Snipperclips won an award, I believe.
Yes, they did.
Switch. Fun game if anyone's done it. I believe Mario vs. Rabbids also won an award.
Yeah, so like the Snipperclips won Family Game of the Year, and then the Mario vs. Rabbids, I think, won the best turn-based or something like that. Hold on, I'm looking it up right now.
Divinity get shafted for role-playing game of the year. Nier Automata won, but I don't know.
Strategy simulation game of the year is the one that Mario plus Rabbids won, which I was very surprised at that one. Like, out of all the games that they picked, that was really odd.
Yeah. It's a good game though.
It's a great game, but yeah. And then, you know, some of them are like no brainers. Like Cuphead won outstanding achievement in art direction. And I think Horizon Zero Dawn also won, but only in story. Story and technical achievement.
That's good.
Action game of the year went to PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Ugh.
And role-playing went to Nier Automata. Mario Kart 8 even won the racing game of the year, which I think was a huge sort of...
that's kind of an upset, thinking of, like, you know, Forza. Didn't Forza
that's exactly like Forza, you would think.
Do you think that the guys were like, I know Mario?
that honestly is probably part of it. Just... I mean, how much do you guys think this is a popularity contest? Like, I know I've made that point before about these kinds of awards, but like, do you think these decisions are made just based on popularity, or like, is it just that name recognition of Mario? Do you think that's it, or?
I think Breath of the Wild deserved Game of the Year.
Probably.
Based on everything that all the hype and people calling it. If it wasn't like Super Mario Odyssey or Breath of the Wild, I think that would have been interesting. Based on all the hype that you hear online about it. It's just like more people play those games, I think, because they're Nintendo games. They're more approachable. But like Mario Kart winning best racing game, I think, is like the biggest kind of like blinking thing. There is definitely an argument for Mario vs. Rabbids as best strategy game, I think, based on how I've seen other people play it and how impressed people are. And I think that game really benefits from like the expectations you go in are pretty low, and then when you play it, they just completely exceed it. But things like Mario Kart, that really does just show that it could be a popularity contest. But
yeah, that is a little bit of a weird decision.
Yeah, that one doesn't make sense at all. Especially because I almost feel like, you know, it's weird, but I don't think of Mario Kart as a racing game. I understand it is, but it's like a really super casual racing game.
Yeah, the spirit of it isn't the same spirit that most serious racing games have. You know, it's like it.
Well,
technically,
I don't think that makes it less of a game, though, right? Just because you play it at a birthday party doesn't make it less of a award winner, right?
Yeah, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, I don't know. It's just like, a racing game is kind of hard, if that makes sense. Like, there's a lot of factors that go into like, you got to pick the car and the engine, and you tune it, and it's really precise. And Mario Kart is not about any of that. It's more about like coming from behind like an asshole with the
blue shell.
My counter argument to that is that's what Dota players say about Heroes of the Storm.
That's a very good point.
So
I gotta say that's a great point, Mike. That's pretty incredible.
So I mean, and I think Heroes of the Storm is just as competitive as those other ones. It's just competitive in a different way.
It's just fewer nuts and bolts to tighten. Like that's the kind of the only difference.
And then you go into this black hole of because I think games. I saw this article. I don't remember when it was, but it was really interesting. Was whatever happened to linear games? right?
Hmm.
Because I liked linear games back in the day, right?
Yeah,
And
same
you know,
here.
I still like linear games.
yeah, and I think people have added. I think it's the Dark Souls effect, right? They like add an insane amount of difficulty to one, extend playtime, and two, make it more competitive or make it more serious or something like that.
Hmm.
And I don't think a game necessarily needs that complication. And honestly, it might actually get because I think Dota suffers from that. Like, why do I have to hit my own creep? Right? I think that's dumb. And so, like, I think the best part about here is if they've eliminated all of the unnecessary parts of a competitive MOBA, like items and runes and skills and stuff like that. I don't know if you can actually, you know, make that same argument for Mario Kart, but I don't think because the game is less is not as hard as another one makes it less of a game or less deserving of an award. Because maybe that simplicity is why it won, right?
That's fair. That's fair. By the way, because I know that someone will ask, the sports game of the year went to FIFA 18.
Deserved.
I can't believe there's like 18 of these things.
The FIFA like crowd is intense, man. There are a lot of people who play that game.
I'm sure. I don't doubt it for a second. It's still kind of mind-boggling because, you know, like it can't change that much from year to year. So it's weird to me.
Yeah, I don't get it at all either.
I guess that, like, you know, someone could make that same argument about Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed, but I would counter that I don't play Call of Duty or Assassin's Creed every year. I'll play it every 3 or 4 years because that's when something changes.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's not the case with the sports game crowd. I feel like they must buy it every year. I think
sports game people like are the same people who buy Call of Duty every year too. I think that's the same person because when I was like super into sports games, I bought NCAA football 2008 to 2013, like every single year, just because it was the newest version,
right?
And so it's just a different kind of player in person.
Yeah. By the way, the last category, which we haven't mentioned, is the fighting game of the year, and that went to Injustice 2, which I've heard good things about. I haven't.
It's better than Street Fighter.
That one, by the way, had some minor controversy recently because they had $100 special edition that came out with like special skins involved and stuff, and now they're coming out with a game of the year that has those skins included for 60. So that's causing a little bit of a.
I didn't know that, but I bought that $100 version, and now I'm a little upset. So
yeah, I would be too.
Man, but no one knew Injustice was gonna be that good. It's fun to watch. I really like it.
I rented Injustice 2, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I think that it introduced a lot of systems that were really cool. Big improvement over the
Mortal
first
Kombat
one.
10 was a good game, and it's on the same engine.
So. Oh yeah, I still have. I still have Mortal Kombat 10. It's a great time.
I haven't touched it. In fact, I haven't played too many fighting games, but the new Soul Calibur, whenever it comes out, that's a day one purchase for me because I'm a huge Soul Calibur guy. So I'll once that happens, I'll let you guys know.
But you can't jump.
You can, you sort of can, but not really.
Every fighting game needs to open their match by jumping and then kicking. That's how
the pros do it.
That's how every Street Fighter game starts, right? You jump in the air and then you do a kick. That's
exactly
every single time.
It's how most Mortal Kombat matches start too, just a flying kick like both.
I have a great game for you, Chris. It's called Dive Kick. You would love it.
Okay, awesome. Let's do it.
Wait, you really don't know Dive Kick?
No, I don't, actually.
What?
I've actually never heard of that either.
Oh my god. Both of you need to go check it out. It's a game with only 2 buttons. Jump and kick, dive and kick. That's it.
That's fantastic.
It's a fighting game.
That's great. Even I could probably figure it out then. That sounds awesome.
It is the most basic distillation of a fighting game ever, and most of it is like one hit KO. As long as you land one hit, I think you win. Go check it out. You'll love it. I think you guys both seriously really like it.
Cool. We'll do it.
Speaking of another sort of slightly less well-known game, Papers, Please was sort of a darling with the indie scene. I don't know how many regular gamers played it. You absolutely should. It's fantastic.
It's like beautiful. And when I'm not like using that to like, I don't think I'm overselling it at all. Like maybe my next
It's
game
not
is kind of
graphically
overselling
beautiful.
it.
Let's be
No,
clear.
I kind of think it's like an art piece. Like I really I really
Yes.
love that game.
No, the game is definitely making a statement. It makes you think. And it's not easy. It's a hard game. You really have to be kind of paying attention to it. It's also recently launched a short film, which is pretty cool. Have you watched the short film, Chris?
I have, and it breaks, I think, the stereotype that I'm going to call it a movie, that all game movies are bad. Because this one actually was really good. Like, at first I read it because I watched it at work, so I just watched it with subtitles, and even with the subtitles, I was like, "Holy shit, this is good!" And I finally watched it with sound, and it was even better. And like the raw emotion you get, because like you come up with these images when you play the game, and just to give the viewers a little something to work off of, a little frame of reference, you play like an immigration agent for a fake country that's kind of like Russia, that's in a war with like its bordering neighbors, and so people come
Right.
in, and you have to like see the papers, and you have to decide whether you're going to let them into the country or not. So you try to spot errors, and you try to spot like inconsistencies in their stories, but there's also these emotional choices you have to make.
And I should mention real quick that speed is a factor as well, because you only get paid for as many people as you clear. And you need the money to feed your family, and like
and speaking of your family, when you like there's a woman who comes that doesn't have papers, but her husband's over there, she's trying to see her kid, and you have to decide whether to take the hit on that money for your family or don't allow her to see her family. And so it's kind of like those decisions you have to make. And it's really cool because he made the game because of his observations of immigration agents during his travels. And that's where it started. And then the movie kind of just takes those same, like, I think really the most obvious ones that like were really impactful in that game, and just put real people to it and made so much human emotion get attached to it. I really, really liked it. The reviews seem to be really good. So
yeah, and you know, when we say short, we really mean short. The whole thing is just a little shy of 11 minutes. So go check it out, and go check out the game if you haven't, played it or heard of it. It's available on mobile. It's available on Steam and various other platforms. So definitely check this thing out.
Yeah, it's been out for 5 years and is just now, like last year, getting like really recognized. I think it won an award for best indie game of the year back when it came out in 2013 or 14. So do yourselves a favor. Simple, it's fun, it's beautiful.
For sure. So let's see what is next. Look at this. We are just like burning through our stories. So let us cover the PlayStation 4 story, and then we'll talk about the Steam one. Sony has recently added a what some people are calling a big update. I'm not as heavy of a PS4 user as you, Connor, so I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one. Tell us about this new update that Sony released.
Yeah, for sure. This is less of a discussion topic, more of like a PSA out there for any of you fellow PS4 users like me. I mean, I split my time pretty evenly between PC and PS4, but when I am on PS4, I do love to play with friends, like especially now that Monster Hunter World is out. That's kind of my social game right now. And this new update, and like you said, Mike, it's not a huge update. I don't think it is either, but it's small but significant. It's pretty cool. So what this allows you to do, it's like a new browser function. I guess for a while, if you want to talk to your friends on PlayStation Network, you kind of have to message them through your system. You can do it on Vita too. There's like cross-platform there, but you would have to be on a PlayStation system to do it. There's also a PlayStation app that you can have on your phone to do that, but with this update now, you can do it through a browser. You can just sign in and access your messages, and it's kind of like just yet another dimension through which you can reach your PlayStation Network account. So no longer do you have to turn on your console and message your friends or download the app. You can just do it through. Like, it's cool for me because I'm at a day job all day. I'm at a desk. I have a laptop there, so like I could just check my messages there if I wanted to. So it's small, but it's pretty neat. It's on a so it's PlayStation Network is now accessible on PC, phones, tablets, through a browser,
Mm.
and it's like kind of a new streamlined version of your PS4 profile. So it's this thing called My PlayStation. So it's almost like a new profile. It's almost like a new way of presenting your account. And I think this marks like another step in kind of a long process that PlayStation Network's been going through to make your account on PlayStation Network just more social media ish, you know?
Mm.
Because like, I think back in the day, you know, when PS2 was first breaking out into the online and PS3 sort of streamlined it a bit, it was still very much a just this is how you play your games. This is just a game profile. But with PS4 and that era's revamp of the network, they started making it more and more like an actual social media channel where you could,
Right.
I don't know if you're aware of the close friend requests, Mike, on
I am
PS4 now.
not.
Yeah, so what you can do is on PSN you can send close friend requests that are like friend requests but extra, where you and someone will reveal your real names to each other. So it's almost like, and there's even
Oh,
face.
it's kind of like Blizzard on the Blizzard client.
Yeah, basically. So like you'll have actual real world contact information instead of just a gaming handle. PSN, PlayStation Network's been doing that for a little bit, and they've also even had Facebook integration to your profile, so you can just sort of import your Facebook profile into your PlayStation Network profile. So I think this feels like just a continuation of that, the My PlayStation kind of update. So just something to be aware of if you're, if you play socially on PS4 pretty often like I do. So just, keep an eye out for that.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Our last regular story of the month has to do with this. Now, to be fair, I wasn't really familiar with the studio, but the studio is called Incel Games, and they recently got banned from Valve, which is sort of a big deal, or banned from Steam, I should say, which is a big deal. I mean, if you are not able to sell your games on Steam, that is
You're slipping up pretty bad.
Yeah, that makes it really difficult because there's only arguably two other, I guess, big platforms, and they're nowhere near the same size. You got GOG and probably Green Man. So those are the other two ones that pop into my head.
Yeah, there's Humble Bundle, but I don't even know if they allow you to
Game
just...
Jolt.
Game Troll.
Game Jolt is really big in the indie world.
Oh, I've never
Game
actually
Jolt.
heard of Game Jolt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that one either. So why did they get banned from Steam? Well, they got banned for leaving fake user reviews. And by that, I mean the employees were essentially instructed to leave positive reviews about the latest Incel games that were released. Because, obviously, since that feature came out, which is funny because we were talking about Nintendo at the top of the episode removing this feature. Once Steam added this, and they added curators, and they added all these sort of layers to decide whether you want to play a game or not, it became really important to have positive reviews. Games that have mostly negative or mixed reviews tend to not sell as well. And so, yeah, this is a big factor, especially for smaller studios. Steam found out and said, we're not going to tolerate this, and just got rid of it. Chris, obviously, I think you have the most experience here, coming from a small studio. Do you think that Steam acted appropriately, or you think they should have just kind of let them off with a warning or maybe like a temporary ban or something like that?
So I think this is kind of I don't think this is a black and white type of answer, so bear with me. And so I think the biggest thing is I do believe this is kind of common amongst indie studios to leave reviews, especially with family and friends, and incentivizing them to leave reviews. I don't think a lot of those companies think that they're doing anything wrong, because technically they are buying the game and playing it and reviewing it. They just know they're going to get a good review, right? So there's definitely some moral aspects to that are in question. I do like that Steam has finally talked about this, because again, I do think it's kind of common, and the fact that they got banned hopefully means that I can trust reviews even more, especially for indie games a little bit more now, because I've always felt really weird about it, because I've had other friends from other companies ask me to do the same thing. I've even been offered like gift cards for the iTunes store and like to leave reviews to have that incentive. And I've always felt icky about that. And so it's nice to know that my feelings are kind of shared through Steam as well. It just sucks that this is an indie company that I think was just trying to get their game out there and get more well known, because that market is so saturated. And so the best way to get your game known is by getting good reviews. And if those aren't coming in, people can get desperate because you've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on this game that no one's playing. And so it's hard.
Yeah, it's definitely sympathetic that, you know, I think we all know how unforgiving the industry can be sometimes, and if people, like, you know, quit their day jobs or pour their savings into their passion projects, yeah, like you said, Chris, they just get desperate. But this is a the developers from Malta, so they're kind of Mediterranean area. They might not have been familiar with just the kind of codes of conduct on Steam. They might have just been kind of new to the platform, didn't really know what the regulations were, possibly.
Yeah, so I mean, I think right now the industry as a whole is in this huge boom period, and there's just too much stuff coming out, way more stuff coming out than people want to play or can keep up with even. And so you're seeing this sort of desperation, as you mentioned, Chris, because people have invested so much money, and without, you know, promotion, the smaller studios can't compete at all.
Yeah, reviews are like gold, right? Like we're releasing a game in like a year, right? And we're already lining up reviews for that game so it can launch with it. And and that's super important, because you need to launch with hype, right? And if no one's seen your game, then you're not going to get that hype, especially a horror game like we're doing. And so, you know, it's so hard, because then what happens is you get an Ori in the Blind Forest or a Bastion. You get your kind of like group of 5 indie games that kind of just outsell the rest too. And you want to get there. And so if you're not part of the PAX 10 or the Indie Mega booth, it's so hard. And the best way to even get a shot at one of those places is to have those reviews as well, because they're not going to look at a 3-star game. And so, yeah, and so I mean, I feel for them, and they might not be aware of the rules. A lot of the indie developers don't do that kind of research. They think that, you know, it's all, especially if they think it's all, you know, it's all good to go. It's tough, but I do think Valve did the right thing, because it allows each game to have the organic reviews, and then the focus is more on marketing rather than just getting reviews for your friends and family.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
That's fair. So at the end of the day, I mean, if you're listening out there, your reviews matter, believe it or not, especially for the smaller titles. So if you do check out something like Papers, Please, you know, let others know, because that's how the indie games shine. Word of mouth, good press, and you know, whether you love or hate Call of Duty at this point, you know, your opinion's not going to really make a huge difference, I think, but it's true.
Yeah, no, it totally is.
But with indie games, you can make all the difference, honestly. So,
I know we take feedback super seriously,
right?
Because like we don't know who else is going to play that game, so we don't have that sample size to say, all right, you had an issue here, but these 8 other people did it, right? And so it's just a lot harder in this world, and one of the few industries where word of mouth is still like the main way of advertising.
Right.
It's super important to get that going.
Absolutely. So I think that covers us for all the regular stories, but we do have some great what the fuck pieces for you as well. I'm going to start by letting you talk about the titty streamer.
Yes. Okay. So so Casey Tron is a legendary Twitch streamer, probably one of the first. I think she actually might have pegged the term herself, titty streamer. And so for years, right? And like I think she started like before we got into the double digits in the 2000s. I think when Twitch was like just starting to get popular, before you know someone bought Twitch. Casey Tron was a streamer when I was playing League of Legends, way back in the day. And I remember my ex-boyfriend at the time showed me Casey Tron, and for the longest time I thought she was serious. Like, so
Really?
like, so yeah.
She seems, in the clips I saw, she seems so sarcastic.
So yeah, I get that, but then I'm like, but she's crying. Okay, so anyway, so one of her shticks is that she'll like do badly at a game on purpose, and she's like a hyper troll, and then she'll start crying and say, "Sorry, I'm crying because I'm a girl," and like she'll like shake because her boobs will shake as well. She'll be like, "I'm so sorry," and I'm just like, I want to laugh, but I also feel bad for you, and I don't know if this is real or not. But I would keep watching. It's like watching a train wreck, right? Some of her other highlights are in this story. It's she drew a line on her chest and said, "Twitch told me I couldn't go below this line." And then another one, a fan actually sent her a horse certificate, and then she showed it on stream and said that I can do all of these things because I'm certified. And right, so you're laughing because it's kind of brilliant.
Yeah, it's very new age comedy. It's satirical.
So in this article,
it's dank.
So in this article, she finally admits that for the last 8 years, this has been an act, and these fans say the most terrible things you can imagine to say to a person, and she's just taken it for the last 8 years. And finally, in this article, like, they talk about how she considers it a brand of comedy, and that it's just a personality, and that, you know, in her real life, she never gets called Casey Tron and doesn't tell people, and she actually writes skits out for these things because she actually, for like a couple months, covered up her boobs, and she's calling it her grandma phase, and she lost it, and like everyone still kept watching though because her personality is just so annoying, and like you like want her to cry almost, right? But it's just crazy to me how this one person makes a shit ton of money every year on Twitch for the last 8 years and maintained this character the whole time, and you know, is on the cusp of getting banned in like every game she plays, and yet she's still hyper popular and has just played with our emotions the whole time. It's like I don't know whether to hate her or absolutely like respect her.
Yeah, no, I have pretty mixed feelings about it. I will say that my favorite Twitch personality was a puppet that I saw.
That's awesome.
It was pretty amazing. I'd have to look it up right now, but this was like a Muppets-esque puppet that would like play games, and it was he would talk and interact with the audience, and it really looked like he was playing whatever he was playing. It was intense. Well done. I've never heard of this person until I read this article. So,
and it's just it's kind of cool that like Twitch has become a medium for that kind of stuff too, right? Because it kind of opened my eyes on what Twitch can be used for, and whether I still don't know if she's serious or not. Though I think she might be trolling that person who wrote the article.
No, wait, Lance, put the picture of her back up. We might get more viewers.
Yeah, that's gold right there. That's what we need.
Another big thing that she does is like she'll start a game but only walk back and forth doing it without ever engaging in any fights, and saying it's because she's scared because she's a girl. And apparently and apparently it's like because she's like working off of these stereotypes that these terrible people watch, you know, her do, and it's like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's like a self-eating like feedback loop of just trolling. Like they're just trolling each other in an infinite, you know, void. It's fucking hilarious. Yeah. I was aware of Casey Tron before we brought this up. Like I think I remember hearing about her a few years back. Like I've never been on Twitch in any, you know, serious capacity. I was never really a audience member of anything, but I did see some of her highlights on YouTube where like she would play League of Legends and, you know, do her trolling bit. And I remember thinking like, what the fuck is this? Like, 'cause she was doing her character where she's like pretending to get pissed at guys she's playing with.
Yes.
Or like she's like baiting them, like, oh, you're trash talking me because I'm a girl. Like she's like, you know, baiting them. I'm like, who the hell is this bitch? Like I remember thinking like, what's her deal? Like she's annoying, fuck her, whatever. Like I'm over it. But then I've later came to realize she's doing a character, and I'm like, my general feeling of her is like, I'm not interested. Like that's fine, that's funny. Like, you know, I'm from the outside, but I do respect like the thought that goes into that. That's kind of funny, like hearing about it. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it, but it's like, that's pretty funny hearing about it.
So, like, basically, the reason why this isn't what the fuck for me is because, one, I've been trolled for the last 8 years, and I don't know why, because I always pop into her stream just to see what she's doing, like what crazy thing she's doing next. Obviously not for the titties, right? And so,
Sure.
Based on our Spice Girls conversation from earlier. And
yeah, let's keep that in mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, it just makes so much sense to me now, and there's got to be more people like me that are just that have thought that she's just been that she actually talks like that.
I definitely did for a while, but I think someone had to point out to me, like, no, dude, she's just doing a character. But like,
but
this,
is she? I don't know. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. There might be levels to it.
That's so like, what the fuck to me? She's either like a genius or really that terrible person. So.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, tough call.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Someone, I want to get your opinion though, really quick, Chris, on something I saw earlier. Someone mentioned like, Casey Tryon is a terrible person. Here's why. She'll go into like a public game and join a team and be bad on purpose, basically ruining the experience of the randos she's matched with, like through no fault of their own. Like, you're just trying to play a game of Dota or League or whatever it is, and she bombs the game for, you know, for goofs for her channel, but you're like an innocent victim of that because you're just trying to have a game. Like, does that reflect on her badly? Like, someone, this is just a comment I read. This is not what I think. I just read this. So like, I'm wondering, do you think there's any validity to that? Like, does that speak to her character? Yeah,
totally. But that was like her shtick, right? So that's what she's known for.
But still, like, that's fucking shitty though. Like,
it is super shitty.
Like, yeah, it's for a joke, it's for a character. That's fine. That doesn't make it less shitty. I think
but
that's what this person.
But these other 4 people aren't on the joke, right?
Right, and that's through no fault of their own. They're just kind of an innocent bystander, and they're victimized almost.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. No,
it's
totally.
weird.
Yeah,
weird.
I see that. I see that part as well. But unfortunately, those reactions, or those highly emotional reactions of the other people on the team, are why people watch.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We come back to the feedback loop of infinite trolling each other and just hatred.
People like watching trash, right?
That's America, dude. That's America. I mean, that's all it is.
Yep.
Pretty much.
That's how Omarosa can work in the White House and then go on, and then go on Big Brother, like literally right after she gets fired, right? That's one of the most American things I can think of.
It's very true.
No comment.
Not touching that one.
Yeah. So the rest of our stories are not quite so intense. And 2 of them involve Final Fantasy 15. Which we all know how I feel about Final Fantasy 15. Spoiler alert, it's garbage. But it is coming out on PC, and we're seeing some, I think, somewhat questionable cross promotions. But I'm curious to hear what you guys think. The first cross promotion, the really odd one, the super odd one, is with The Sims 4, which to me is like, who the fuck is still playing The Sims 4? But I'm sure there are people out there who are doing it.
Oh yeah, plenty.
But my question is the Venn diagram of people that want to play Sims 4 and people that want to play Final Fantasy 15. I don't know how much overlap there is between those two. Like, I don't know. But if you buy Final Fantasy 15, you will get some superhero outfits that are very ridiculous looking for The Sims 4. And I'm sure
I'm looking at them now. I'm looking at them now, and I can't even make sense of what I'm seeing. Like,
they're llamas.
The weirdest shit. That's what they are. They're llamas.
They're llamas.
That is wild. Why though?
So why is everything in Final Fantasy 15 for me just a little over the line? Like, everything is sexual. Right, like for some reason I look at these llama suits and I'm like, I feel like someone's into this, and that's why they're in the game.
By the way, I want to be clear that the Sims 4 skins are in Final Fantasy, not that Final Fantasy are in The Sims 4. So just to be clear, so you're playing Final Fantasy 15 and you have this llama
Maybe
thing.
It's because of the ripped abs and like the huge boobs that I'm thinking about that. It's like
I don't know, they're not that big as far as like video game boobs are concerned.
It's pretty average.
They probably don't need their own physics engine.
No,
probably not.
it's such a weird thing.
Yeah,
Right?
it's way over my head. I'm just like, I'm not even gonna try and make sense of this. Like,
Hey,
even going there.
nothing will beat the ramen crossover, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, that was hilarious.
That
That
was
was
pretty bad.
fantastic.
That was
genius.
great.
Um,
Actually, because don't you eat ramen in the game? Like, don't the characters in Final Fantasy? So
there's a cup of noodles truck in the game, and you
that's something.
take a quest from Gladiolus, who tells you that his favorite meal is cup of noodles with like this meat on top or whatever, and then you have to go and kill the monster that drops the meat, and you have this beautiful high resolution cup of noodles rendered that you're eating. And yeah, well,
There you go.
that's different because like at least cup of noodles I'm sure paid a lot of money for that. I don't think like Squeenix was like, hey, cup of noodles, you want your stuff in our game for free? No, I'm sure they at least made some money off of it. This I don't know. The other crossover with Final Fantasy 15 involves Half-Life. Like I'm not even making this up. It's fucking Half-Life. You can wear the Gordon Freeman's suit from Half-Life.
Finally.
In Final Fantasy 15. Again, the Venn diagram here is just people that really want to play Half-Life 3 and people that want to play Final Fantasy 15.
What if this is how they're going to announce it?
I don't believe it for a second.
Confirmed. Michael, what if they confirm Half-Life 3 in Final Fantasy 15 and here's a twist on the Nintendo Switch? Right?
Gabe Newell just breaks down a wall like, Half-Life 15, baby. This is how we're doing it.
Half-Life 3 Nintendo Switch exclusive.
Then I will know unquestionably that we are living in the dark timeline.
I could see
The darkest.
like committing seppuku. That happened. It's just like
I will commit Sudoku over that.
that's like a Black Mirror episode for Michael. Every
Yes.
like amazing game, right? Every
Yes.
amazing game is a Nintendo Switch exclusive, right?
Pretty much.
Introducing Mike Schluger's dream game only on Switch. And then credits roll. Boom, boom, boom.
No!
Brought to you by executive producer Daniel Kaluuya or whatever it was.
Wake up.
Charlie Brooker.
And by the way, I want to mention that you get to use the crowbar as a weapon in Final Fantasy 15.
You gotta. You can't have the suit without the crowbar.
Of course.
It can't happen. Yeah, that's awesome. That's actually, I'm not gonna lie. That's actually kind of cool. I love Half-Life, but yeah, it's hilarious. Like, did Square Enix just like sit in a boardroom one day? Like, let's just give something to those three guys, like Jared, Duke, and Griff, who just love Half-Life and they love Final Fantasy. Like both of them. Like, let's just give those three guys get this thing.
It's more like my thinking is, I can't imagine anyone sitting there and saying like, I don't like RPGs, but I love Half-Life. So now that this is in the game, I'm gonna buy it. It's
that's not a thought process I'd really follow. Yeah.
Like it's just weird. It's very weird. It's very.
I feel like Griff is the Meg of that group of guys.
Shut up, Meg.
Shut up, Griff. Let Jared talk.
I love how we're just explaining the personalities of these three people I made up. Like,
yeah,
that's what we do here at Press Any Key.
Like, I'm like really interested to see the personality of anyone who still plays The Sims. Like base Sims. Like they only have The Sims 4. They don't have any of the expansions.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Exclusively on the Nintendo Switch.
I mean, like, yeah,
Last of Us 2 only on the Nintendo.
Oh, God.
Civilization 6 only on Switch.
I'm gonna have nightmares.
We're gonna take it off.
And it's all your fault. I'm gonna have nightmares tonight.
with the Nintendo Labo.
No, you know what's coming down the pike right now is Player Unknown's Battlegrounds only on Nintendo Switch.
Yeah,
like you can build like a go-kart out of cardboard for the Labo, and like that's what's coming down the pike right now.
Well, it's funny that you should mention that, because our last What the Fuck story actually does involve Nintendo Labo.
Bring it on.
Yeah, so Nintendo is releasing officially licensed masking tape. Like, this is a thing. It costs about $5.
Why not?
And it comes in a variety of. There's a camo one, and there's a Mushroom Kingdom one with like the mushrooms, the 1-up mushrooms, and there's one with like the question.
Yeah, so I actually like this idea because I can get the camo tape a child in the house around, and then no one's going to be able to find him or hear him scream. So,
And that's one way to use it.
That's awesome. It's going to make kidnapping really easy because you can see 'em, right?
and friendly.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, so this kind of stuff is hard for us to see as adults, but when I was a teacher, I was working with like little preschoolers. I'm sorry, guys, and I ruined your lives. But I used to get like just different colored like painter's tape, right? And they went fucking nuts over it, man. Kids love tape. I don't know why, but
Tape
like,
is pretty
It's so
balling.
sticky.
like they fucking love tape, and so and like I'd like bring a whole packet in of like 8 different colors, and it was gone that day. And it's just like, so if they're getting into that market, I get it. It's not for us, but honestly, I kind of want this the mushroom tape.
Yeah, I mean, you combine tape and Nintendo, and you give it to kids. You got a grand slam right there.
Can you imagine this like becoming a collector's item because like
Oh god.
only like 10 people buy this shit, and then like 5 years later, it's worth like I don't know hundreds of dollars. Or something.
I don't know.
Everyone that bought it used it except for like Gary. Gary like buys 3 of each, never touches them.
Shut up, Griff.
Fucking Gary.
Gary's
That's so
cool, though.
so classic Gary though. It's typical fucking Gary.
He's going through a dark time. Okay.
Well, I don't know. I
Leave
mean,
Gary alone.
this does seem like a really practical move though, actually, because I think when we were kids, the equivalent of this maybe was like those electronic toys that you'd get for Christmas, and like your parents would have to get batteries too. It's almost like if you're going to buy your kid a Labo kit, they got to have tape for it, and no regular tape is going to cut it, so it just won't do. You got to get a Nintendo tape.
That's the weird thing here. The Labo stuff is set up to fit together. I think the masking tape is probably more of a to repair or something, or maybe decorate or decorate. It's not necessary for Labo. Like Labo stuff just like slots together.
I wasn't aware of that. I thought you had to tape it.
No, not to my knowledge.
Yeah, that's interesting then. That's interesting.
Yeah, no, if it was necessary for the use of Labo, people would have been upset if they had to pay $5 extra for a separate thing.
Man, if this was back in like the 90s and they came out with this, I would have been all over that shit on my folders.
Oh hell yeah! Dude,
right?
tell me about
my
it.
like Trapper Keepers. I bet this stuff sells a lot, to be honest, because I kind of want all of it. I think so too. I don't know why I have this need to buy this tape right now, but I need this tape.
Like I don't.
So bad.
Well, that tape is all you.
I don't need it, but like if I got it in like a Christmas stocking, or I'd be like, hey, this is pretty cool. It's pretty bitchin'.
I'd be pretty stoked.
Tape. Yeah, nice.
All right, well, you're welcome, Connor's girlfriend.
Hey, hey, Michael, when's your birthday?
Yeah, and your address.
My birthday passed already. My birthday was in December.
When's your like anniversary with your girl?
Also, just passed in February. You're close.
What other holidays?
All right. Well, when's your quinceanera?
Yes.
I don't fucking know. Give me something. I can send you a Nintendo tape, Mike.
I'll give you. Okay, so just look out. You're gonna get a Memorial Day gift box to celebrate, and there's gonna be a ton of shit, and especially because I hear a rumor that they're actually announcing Half-Life 3 on the back of this masking tape.
I can't wait.
It's gonna be a free code for the Nintendo Switch exclusive.
I can't wait.
Half-Life 3.
Can't wait.
That'll also be one of those dual type of discs that will have Last of Us 2 on it.
Well, I think that is all the show we have for you this month. As always, we really appreciate any comments that you guys leave for us. Make sure you hit subscribe below. And until next time, I have been your host, Michael Schluger.
Chris Lassard.
Connor Howard.
Have a great month of gaming. There's a lot of keys for us. We'll see you soon.